everyone, welcome to my channel Anatomy by Dr. Vijaya. So this video will be part 3 of histology of gastrointestinal tract. So in this video I'll be talking the microscopic features of small intestine, large intestine and the appendix. So small intestine is that part of the digestive tract where there will be a final digestion will be taking place. So there will be a completion of digestion and the products of digestions are absorbed over here. So most of the nutrients which are produced due to the digestion, so they are absorbed in the intestine. Okay, so the terminal food digestion, the nutrient absorption and the secretion of endocrine, so all these are the main functions of small intestine. So according to this function, so they have a particular microscopic features. So when you see the small intestine, it is a very long organ which is around 5 meters in length. So they are divided into different parts or different segments. So they are divided into duodenum, jejunum and ileum. Okay, so though they are divided into 3 parts, their microscopic features almost they are in common. So they have the features of in common, but there are certain unique feature in each segments which will help us to identify whether it's a duodenum or jejunum or ileum. So let us go in detail about the each segment. So when you see the mic with the naked eye, okay, uh, the the mucosa of the small intestine has many folds. So these are permanent folds which are nothing but the folds of mucosa and submucosa. So these can be seen with the naked eye. So where when you can see in a the cadaveric dissection the small intestine. So when it's open and when you see the lumen, the surface of the lumen, so there you can see folding. So these are permanent fold, unlike you see the folds in the stomach. So the folds which are present in the stomach are temporary in nature. So once that is filled with food, the folds disappear. But here in the small intestine, so these folds are permanent because these increases the surface area. Okay, because most of the absorption of the nutrients takes place in the intestine. So these folds mainly helps in the mainly increases the surface area of the absorption. Okay, so these folds are mainly due to the foldings of the mucosa and submucosa. Since the mucosa and also the submucosa are folding, so that's why you can see the these folds which are called as plica circularis. Okay, so these can be seen grossly and also in the under the microscope. Okay, so mucosa and submucosa are thrown into permanent circular folds which are called as plicae circularis. Okay, and when you go into the lining epithelium of the mucosa, the lining epithelium here it is simple columnar epithelium, and the cells here are called as enterocytes because these are present in the small intestine. So their main function is absorption of the nutrients. Okay, the final digestion takes place and the products of digestion will be absorbed. So these cells are called as absorptive cells because their main function is absorption. And these cells, the mucosa here also has villi, finger-like projection, which is nothing but the layer of epithelium and also the lamina propria. So when you touch the surface of the small intestine, the inner surface of the small intestine, so they are velvety in nature due to the presence of these villi. Okay, so these are finger-like mucosal projections which are mainly lined by simple columnar epithelium which is having the enterocytes, that is the absorptive cells, and they also have goblet cells, okay, which produces mucus for lubrication and protection. Okay, so and along with that they have the lamina propria. So within each villi there will be a central core of lamina propria, and at the central core they have a large lymphatic vessel which are called as lacteals. Okay, so lymphatic vessels in the small intestine are called as lacteals. Okay, so these if you are asked what parts of the uh, microscopic layer. Which part of the microscopic layer or which layer forms the plica circularis is the mucosa and submucosa, and for villi the layers are the surface epithelium and the lamina propria. So when you see these permanent folds, they are present throughout, but they are very well developed in the jejunum. Okay, compared to duodenum and ileum, the plica circularis are very well developed and very well seen in the jejunal area. Okay, as it goes to the ileum, the number of folds decreases. Okay, then between the villi, the surface epithelium, it invaginates into the lamina propria, forming a crypts. Okay, and the opening of these crypts are called as crypts of Lieberkühn, or these are the crypts of the intestinal glands. So here in this picture you can see, so this is here you can see the folding, the permanent fold plica circularis. Okay, which is the layer of mucosa and also the submucosa. Okay, so that forms the plica. Okay, villi is small finger-like projection which mainly has the surface epithelium and the lamina propria. So here also you can see these finger-like projections are villi having the surface epithelium and the lamina propria, the core of connective tissue. So they have a lymphatic, they have blood vessels and also lymphatic vessels which are specially named as lacteals. Okay, and these folds are more in number in the jejunum. So in between the villi, so the surface epithelium invaginates to form a crypts, and the opening of the crypts are called as crypts of Lieberkühn. So these have intestinal glands and they have different cells like stem cells, which mainly replaces the other absorptive cells, the goblet cells. Then they have Paneth cells. So these have a protective mechanism. So they form an innate immunity within the small intestine, and also it provides or it regulates the microenvironment within the small intestine, Paneth cells. Then there are enteroendocrine cells. So these will form the intestinal glands having variety of cells. Okay, and then you see muscularis mucosae. So these are the structure of the mucosa of the small intestine. Then later you have the submucosa. The submucosa have blood vessels, the lymphatic vessels. Along with that, in the duodenum part, the submucosa has mucosal glands. So these are called as duodenal glands. Okay. Then as you go further, there will be muscularis externa having inner longitudinal and outer longitudinal and inner circular smooth muscle cells, which helps in the peristaltic movement. So these are the cells present in the intestinal glands. Okay, so the Paneth cells, they produce lysozyme, antibacterial enzymes. So they form an innate immunity and provides and mainly regulates the micro environment within the small intestine. There are enteroendocrine cells which secretes regulatory hormones. Then there are intestinal crypts of epithelial cells. They mainly secrete the intestinal juice, which helps in digestion. Then the submucosa mainly has, as I mentioned, there are in the duodenum, they along with blood vessels, lymphatics, they have the duodenal glands. So this is mainly present in the duodenum. But when you go to when you see the jejunum, the submucosa doesn't have any mucosal glands. But as it goes to the ileum part, there are big nodules, lymphatic nodules. So those are mainly help in the protection. Okay, and the smooth muscles which form the muscularis externa, they provide in moving the food, and that is the propulsive movement of the food, and they transport the food, which are the digested food, towards the large intestine. So here in this picture you can see the enterocytes, the absorptive cells, okay, having a round nuclei. Okay, when you see the apex, the apical end of these absorptive cells, they have microvilli, okay, small brush borders which are called as microvilli. Again, they increase the surface area of the absorption because most of the absorption of the nutrients takes place in the small intestine. So along with finger-like projection, which are called as villi, along with that, these absorptive cells also have microvilli, which forms the brush border. So this is the goblet cells. The goblet cells mainly produces the mucus. Okay. So you can see at the apex, it is pale in color, as I mentioned, due to the histological process. Okay. So the mucus gets dissolved and you can see the pale apical area. So this is the goblet cells. So the number of goblet cells increases as it goes to the ileal area. So when you see in the duodenum, they are less in number, duodenum and jejunum. As it goes to the ileum, area, so the number of goblet cells increases because it needs more and more protection and it has to form a protective lining, so in order to protect from the bacterial invasion like microorganisms. Okay. So Paneth cells, so they're mainly eosinophilic in nature, so they have secretory granules which they have affinity towards acid dye, so they are eosinophilic in nature or acidophilic in nature. So in this picture, again you can see these are the intestinal villi. Okay, so sorry, this is the plicae circulares, that is you can see the layer of mucosa and submucosa which forms a permanent folds here. Then you can see the villi over here, finger-like projection having the surface epithelium and the lamina propria. Okay, here you can see the different layer mucosa, so due to the folds, circular folds here. Okay, and submucosa, then the muscularis externa having inner circular and outer longitudinal, and small intestine, they are intraperitoneal organs, so that's why you'll be seeing serosa, that means loose connective tissue, along with that they have mesothelium. So here you can see the simple columnar epithelium, so this is a villi. Okay, intestinal villus, so this is the lamina propria. So center you have the lacteal, that is the lymphatic vessel. Then you have, this is the venule and the arteriole, the blood vessels, and at the center you have the lymphatic vessel, which is called as lacteals. Okay, so here in between the villus, so the invagination, which will lead into the intestinal glands. So the opening are called as crypts. So these are called as crypts and they open here. So those are called as crypts of Lieberkühn. So intestinal villi are lined by simple columnar epithelium. As I mentioned earlier, they have enterocytes which are absorptive in nature and goblet cells which have, secretes mucus. So as I told earlier, number of goblet cells increases as the intestine goes distally. So you'll be seeing more in number, more of goblet cells in the ileum. And if you can see here, these enterocytes or absorptive cells have brush borders which are microvilli, which mainly helps in effective absorption. Okay, so this increases the surface area and they help in proper absorption of the nutrients. So in between the villi, you'll be seeing the intestinal glands, so also called as crypts of Lieberkühn. So they have enterocytes and goblet cells. Along with that, they have Paneth cells, enteroendocrine cells, and also stem cells, which replaces the other cells. So as I mentioned, these Paneth cells at the apex, they have secretory granules, which are more eosinophilic in nature. So these are goblet cells where the apex are pale in color due to since the mucus is dissolved. So as we go to each segment of the small intestine, so there are, as I mentioned, the characteristics are almost common, but there are few unique or special features which will help us to identify whether it is a duodenum segment or jejunum or the ileum segment. So in the duodenum, the epithelium is simple columnar composed of enterocytes and goblet cells, but goblet cells are less in number. Lamina propria has loose connective tissue with blood and lymph vessels, nerve fibers, smooth muscle cells, and few intestinal glands. Muscularis mucosa is present. The very important feature mainly present in duodenum is the presence of mucus glands in the submucosa. Okay, I had mentioned in my earlier video that two organs of digestive tract have mucosal glands in the submucosa. One is esophagus, the other one is duodenum. So how to differentiate? So both have mucosal glands. So there it is called as esophageal glands. Here it is called as duodenal glands or Brunner's glands. Okay. So how to differentiate whenever it is focused under the microscope? So when you see the esophagus, so you see the mucosal glands in the submucosa mainly concentrate on the epithelium. So if it is stratified squamous non-keratinized epithelium, then the structure is esophagus. If you are seeing simple columnar epithelium, so then it is duodenum. Okay, so this is how you differentiate esophagus from the duodenum. They have muscle layer and also serosa is present. Okay, but especially at the first part. So if you see grossly, duodenum is divided into first, second, third, and fourth. The first part is intraperitoneal, but the rest is retroperitoneal. So the first part of the duodenum, there you see serosa, since it is intraperitoneal. So this is the picture of duodenum. So if you can see, they are somewhat leaf-like shaped. Okay, so the villi, these are the villi. So they look like a leaf. So this is one plicae. Okay, because the submucosa is also folded here. So you can see number of mucosal glands over here. So why the mucosal glands are present in the submucosa here? Because there should be more secretion of mucus in order to maintain the pH, the optimal pH. So because in the stomach, the chyme which is formed, it is ingested with the, means it is added with hydrochloric acid. So once it reaches the duodenum, so in order to maintain the optimal pH, there will be more secretion of mucus in the duodenum. So that's why you have mucosal glands in the submucosa, the Brunner's glands. Okay, so that the pH is maintained and there won't be any damage to the duodenum, the surface epithelium of the duodenum. Okay, so that's the reason. That's why I told the microscopic features always links to the function of that particular organ. So again, this is the duodenum, this is the plicae. So here you can see the submucosa having mucosal glands, and these are the villi. Okay, finger-like projections. And the glands are called as duodenal glands or Brunner's glands. Now coming to the jejunum. So as I mentioned earlier, the folds are best developed in the jejunum. So you'll see more of plicae circulares here. Epithelium is same, simple columnar having enterocytes and goblet cells. They have intestinal glands, that is the crypts of Lieberkühn. The rest are similar. Okay. So how do you identify? You'll be seeing more of plicae circulares. So this picture, the three pictures are showing the microscopic area of the jejunum. Okay, so they have a very well developed plicae circulares, the permanent folds. So they have finger-like villi. So when you see the villus in the duodenum, they are a little bit broader, leaf-like, but here in the jejunum, they look finger-like. Exactly, they form a finger-like projections. Okay. And rest other features are same, but you don't see a mucosal glands in the submucosa. So there are no submucosal glands. Now coming to the ileum. So the epithelium will be the same, simple columnar absorptive enterocytes and goblet cells. Here the goblet cells are more in number. Goblet cells are little less in duodenum and jejunum, but as it comes to ileum, the goblet cells will increase in number. In the lamina propria, there are intestinal glands. Along with that, there are large lymphoid follicles over here. So that is the main identifying feature for the ileum. So those are called as Peyer's patches. The muscularis mucosa is present. Again, submucosa also has Peyer's patches because the lymphoid follicles might extend to the submucosa as well. And both jejunum and ileum has serosa because they are intraperitoneal organ. So here you can see this is a HND staining of the ileum. So very easy to identify. So you will be seeing the lymphoid follicles, very big lymphoid follicles in the lamina propria and submucosa. Okay, and you can see here lots of goblet cells. Can you see many pale colored cells over here? So the number of goblet cells increases as it goes to the ileum part. Okay, so because there should be more and more production of mucus for lubrication and for the protection. Now coming to the histology of large intestine, so there are quite some of the features compared to the small intestine. There are some changes, so there is a transition. So in the small intestine there was permanent folds which disappears as it comes to the large intestine. It slowly becomes less in number as it comes to the ileal region, but once it comes to the large intestine there is complete absence of these permanent folds, that is plicae circulares. Then there are no villi in the large intestine. Okay, and you will be seeing lots of lymphatic nodules over here, and also the number of goblet cells also increases. So these are the few features which differs small intestine from the large intestine. So the mucosa is folded, so it's in the non-distended state, and no villi and plicae circulares. They have simple columnar epithelium. So here they are called as colonocytes. Okay, so their main function is to absorb water. So here only absorption of water takes place, and there will be formation of fecal matter. So those undigestible material, they form a fecal mass which is transported, which is pushed towards the rectum and the anal canal. Okay, since the columnar cells here, their main function is to absorb water, so they are called as colonocytes, and they have more of goblet cells when compared to small intestine, because they have to secrete more mucus, which lubricates the intestinal surface, and they also help in the smooth passage of the fecus along the rectum. We can also see crypts of Lieberkühn, that is the invagination in between. Okay, and have here also the crypts of Lieberkühn mainly has more of goblet cells, and there are few enteroendocrine cells and stem cells as well. The lamina propria has numerous lymphoid follicles. Okay, and it has muscularis externa, mainly having inner and outer longitudinal area. But in addition, the special gross feature of a large intestine is presence of haustration due to presence of a ribbon-like layer, muscular layer, which is called as tinea coli. So where there are three main tinea coli, if you can see the gross large intestine, so there are haustrations and there are three ribbon bands. So those are called as tinea coli. So the area where tinea coli is present, the outer longitudinal layers, so they form a thick band over there. So that band will be called as tinea coli. Okay, so these are the few features of large intestine. So here you can see the transition. So they have a small intestine and foldings, the plicae circulares. Then they have a long finger-like projections those are called as intestinal villi. But as it comes to the large intestine, there are no villi, there are no folds, permanent folds. But you can see the invagination. Okay, so the intestinal crypts are present, and you can see the crypts and the surface epithelium have more of goblet cells. Here you can see the lymphatic nodules. Okay. And when you see the large intestine, small intestine is entirely intraperitoneal, especially the jejunum and ileum. Large intestine, as you know that again it is divided into different segments. So they have cecum and appendix, then ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon. So that sigmoid colon, rectum and anal canal. So among these segments, appendix is intraperitoneal, transverse colon is intraperitoneal, then sigmoid colon is intraperitoneal. So at that areas, you will be seeing serosa, that is having connective tissue with mesothelium. But the rest of the area, which is retroperitoneal segment, so they have adventitia. So this is a muscularis externa. the area where the tinea coli is present, so there will be a thick band of longitudinal muscles. So the longitudinal smooth muscles, they form a thick band which is called as tinea coli. So this is the very low magnification showing the large intestine. So having the folds, the lymphatic nodules over here. And you can see here, these are the thick longitudinal bands at the 3 location. So 3 bands. So these are the tinea coli. And there are submucosal plexus, the myenteric plexus, then the Auerbach's plexus, which are present in the muscularis external area. So you can see lots of goblet cells, the pale areas you will be seeing here. So these are the intestinal glands, the crypts, intestinal crypts having lots of goblet cells. And you can see in the lamina propria, there are lymphatic nodules, which also will extend to the submucosa. Okay, so this has to provide immunity because there are lots of bacterial invasion. So for more protection, there will be production of more of mucus, and there are lots of lymphatic nodules. So simple columnar epithelium with plenty of goblet cells. They have tubular glands, muscularis mucosa present, submucosa present, muscle layer. So outer longitudinal is modified into 3 bands which are called as tinea coli. Okay, so ribbon-like bands. Serosa or adventitia, that's what the segment of large intestine which are enclosed within the peritoneum. There you see serosa. Rest will have the adventitia. So here this is showing the appendix. So microscopic feature of the appendix. Again, they have the features. It's the part of the colon. So they have the same feature, but it is a small tubular organ, vestigial organ. So it resembles like a colon, and it has numerous lymphoid follicles, which also extends to the submucosa, which you can see over here. The only difference is they don't have tinea coli. Okay, so no tinea coli and very small lumen. So when you see under the microscope, the whole appendix can be seen. So you can see the lumen as well. Okay, so that helps you to identify the appendix, and lots of lymphoid follicles. So simple columnar with plenty of goblet cells and immune cells, intestinal glands and large lymphoid follicles. Then submucosa also has lymphoid follicles which may extend to this layer. Muscle layer present. Here you see serosa because appendix has, it's an intraperitoneal organ having mesoappendix. So that's why you see serosa. So if you are seeing the whole lumen under a lower magnification, then it is the appendix. And with no tinea coli, then it is a appendix. So that completes the histology of gastrointestinal tract. So I have mainly covered the microscopic features of oral cavity, then the esophagus, stomach, small intestine and large intestine. So these are my references. Thank you for watching.